Welcome to UK Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Prince William's Earthshot Prize, finalists to fly to Singapore as organisers aim for bigger impact. Swedish car dealer abandons takeover bid for UK rival Pendragon. UK employers face holiday pay claims after top court ruling. Lawyers. The facts have changed, says PM, as he scraps HS2 leg. Citigroup outlines layoff process, reassignments in overhaul memo. Prince William's Earthshot Prize, finalists to fly to Singapore as organisers aim for bigger impact. Telegraph. All 15 finalists from this year's Earthshot Prize will fly to Singapore for the third annual ceremony, taking place on November 7. The event will be significantly bigger than previous years, with a week-long Earthshot retreat for finalists to collaborate, exchange ideas and meet potential investors. Organisers admit that lessons have been learned and they are being more ambitious as they try to create a bigger impact. The focus is now on scaling up the projects of the 45 finalists that form the Earthshot family and achieve their goal of the natural world growing rather than shrinking by 2030. Swedish car dealer abandons takeover bid for UK rival Pendragon. Telegraph. Swedish car dealer Hedin Mobility Group has withdrawn its takeover bid for Pendragon, causing shares in the UK car dealer to fall by nearly 7%. Hedin Mobility Group, Pendragon's biggest shareholder with a 28% stake, had offered to buy the company for 32p per share. Pendragon agreed last month to sell its UK dealership business to US company Lithium Motors for £280 million, $377 million, or 27.4p per share. However, the deal prompted unsolicited takeover proposals from Hedin in partnership with US firm PAG, and from US car retail giant AutoNation. UK employers face holiday pay claims after top court ruling. Lawyers. Reuters. Thousands of UK employers could face compensation claims for underpaid holiday pay following a landmark ruling by the Supreme Court. The decision means that over 3,700 Police Service of Northern Ireland employees are owed money for underpayments dating back to 1998. Lawyers have warned that the ruling has the potential to cost UK businesses millions of pounds. The case began in 2015 when police officers and civilian staff brought claims because their holiday pay was calculated without reference to the overtime they regularly worked. The PSNI now faces a bill of around £30 million, $36.5 million, but the total cost to businesses could be much higher. The facts have changed, says PM, as he scraps HS2 leg. BBC. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has announced that the HS2 high-speed rail line from Birmingham to Manchester will be scrapped as part of his plans to invest in transport projects across the country. Sunak claimed that the project had come from a false consensus that links between big cities were all that matters. The decision has angered some, including local leaders, businesses in Manchester, and former Prime Minister David Cameron. However, there has been growing concern about the ballooning cost of the project. Sunak also set out plans for a new post-16 qualification and to phase out smoking. He stated that the age at which people can buy cigarettes and tobacco in England should rise by 1 year every year until eventually no one can buy them. Citigroup outlines layoff process, reassignments in overhaul memo. Reuters. Citigroup is undergoing its largest reorganization in decades, with managers reviewing staff rosters to determine who will stay in their roles, be reassigned, or laid off. The bank's chief human resources officer, Sarah Wechter, stated that some roles will change, new roles may be created, and roles that do not fit the new structure will be eliminated. Citigroup CEO Jane Fraser announced the reorganization last month to simplify the bank's structure and allow staff who generate revenue to focus on clients. The bank had 240,000 employees at the end of Q2 2021. The countries that abolished inheritance tax, and are now booming. Telegraph. Pressure is mounting on UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to abolish inheritance tax ahead of the general election. If the tax is scrapped, the UK will join 10 other countries in the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, that do not levy death duties. Currently, only 4 OECD nations, including the UK, tax the total wealth of their citizens upon death. Inheritance tax is seen as the most unpopular tax in the UK and is affecting more middle-class families due to rising house prices and frozen tax-free allowances. Advocates for abolition argue that it will encourage business investment and free up resources for the tax office. Australia abolished inheritance tax in the 1970s due to low exemptions and inflation, and since then, wealth transfers have not significantly impacted inequality in the country. Sweden and Singapore have also abolished inheritance tax, with Singapore seeing an influx of entrepreneurs and investors since the tax was scrapped in 2008. Kemi Badenoch shows why she is the obvious choice for next Tory leader. Telegraph. Kemi Badenoch, the UK's Business and Trade Secretary, may be the next leader of the Conservative Party, according to American pollster Frank Luntz. Badenoch, who has been described as a flag-waving patriot and a true believer in Brexit, is seen as a potential leader who could reinvigorate the party if Labour wins the next election. She has been praised for her tough stance on migration and her clear message that Britain looks after those who come to the country legally. However, critics argue that she is a puppet of Michael Gove and lacks depth in her politics. The beer still tastes good, says head of British brewery sold to North Korea. Telegraph. North Korea has named the Taedonggang beer factory one of its top 10 businesses. The factory was purchased from Wiltshire-based Usher's Brewery in 2000 for £1.5 million, $2 million, and then transported to North Korea. The export was only permitted after the UK government was satisfied that the machinery could not be used to produce chemical weapons. The North Korean delegation was then given months of training in the UK under brewer Gary Todd's instruction. Todd reported that the delegation had been complete novices to the brewing industry. The Taedonggang beer factory is one of North Korea's leading enterprises and uses water from the natural springs in Pyongyang. The brewery's barley and hops are grown domestically. The factory is said to be a favorite of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who has visited it several times. The brewery produces 4 different beers, including a Pilsner-style lager and a brown ale. Why Rishi Sunak's big gamble may not pay off. BBC. UK Chancellor Rishi Sunak's decision to scrap the West Midlands to Manchester leg of the HS2 high-speed rail project has raised questions about the country's ability to deliver large-scale infrastructure projects. The cost of the project has escalated to £45 billion, $59 billion, leaving the country with an expensive stump of a line from London to Birmingham. Critics argue that the cancellation is a move to create space for pre-election tax cuts, while the government claims the business case for HS2 relied heavily on business travellers, whose numbers have decreased due to the pandemic. Sanctioned Russian lender Sovcombank preparing for IPO in the coming months. Reuters. Russian lender Sovcombank is considering an initial public offering, IPO, in the coming months, according to a statement from the bank. Shareholders believe that a large bank should be public, and after years of planning, now is the time to list. The bank registered for an additional share issue in March 2020 in anticipation of a future IPO that did not materialize. Sovcombank was placed under US, UK, and EU sanctions soon after Russia launched a military operation in Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 Degrees world, bringing you the latest news from our ever-changing dimension. Let's dive right in. First up, Prince William's Earthshot Prize is taking things to new heights as all 15 finalists will be flying to Singapore for the grand ceremony. This year's event promises to be significantly bigger with a week-long retreat for finalists to collaborate and meet potential investors. The goal is to create a bigger impact and ensure the natural world grows rather than shrinks by 2030. It's exciting to see such ambition and collaboration in the fight for our planet. In other news, a Swedish car dealer has abandoned its takeover bid for UK rival Pendragon, causing shares to fall. It seems like the deal was not meant to be, but the world of automotive business is always full of surprises. Meanwhile, UK employers may face holiday pay claims after a landmark ruling by the Supreme Court. This could potentially cost businesses millions of pounds, so it's going to be a challenging time for many. But let's not forget the UK's Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who has made some bold moves recently. He scrapped the HS2 leg from Birmingham to Manchester, claiming that the project came from a false consensus. Whether you agree or not, it's clear that there are growing concerns about the cost of the project. Sunak also set out plans to phase out smoking and introduce a new post-16 qualification. Change is in the air. Speaking of change, Citigroup is undergoing its largest reorganization in decades, with layoffs and reassignments on the horizon. It's a challenging time for employees, but the goal is to simplify the bank's structure and focus on revenue generation. And in the world of taxation, pressure is mounting on PM Rishi Sunak to abolish inheritance tax. If the UK joins the 10 other OECD countries that have done so, it could have a significant impact on business investment and wealth transfer. Switching gears, Kemi Badenoch, the UK's Business and Trade Secretary, is being touted as a potential leader of the Conservative Party. Frank Luntz, the American pollster, sees her as a patriot and a true believer in Brexit who could reinvigorate the party. But critics argue that she lacks depth in her politics. Only time will tell if she rises to the occasion. And finally, in a surprising turn of events, North Korea has named the Taedonggang beer factory one of its top 10 businesses. It was purchased from a UK brewery and transported to North Korea, and apparently, the beer still tastes good. Who would have thought? That's all the news we have for today, folks. It's been a wild ride, as always. Now, I turn to you, my observant audience. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any burning questions? I'm all ears. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.